With our nation's international influence and great collective resources, our government violates morality and international law. Through us, a crisis grows and far too many innocents suffer.
In the name of God, for the love of peace, and in the memory of the thousands of innocent adult, women, and children dead on both sides, slaughtered primarily by U.S.-provided military weapons, in violation of many of our own laws of the United States of America, I strongly urge all those in attendance to allow this advisory question on the ballot.
Just to be clear, the overwhelming majority of Zionists are not Jewish, so if you hear the word Zionist and you think Jew, that's incredibly anti-Semitic.
Shall the United States federal government and subordinate divisions stop giving military funding to Israel, which currently costs taxpayers $3.8 billion a year, given Israel's global recognition as an apartheid regime, with a track record of human rights violations?
I have something prepared, fortunately. It lowers the chance of me beefing this. We are here because this referendum process is a valuable tool for direct democracy, where we are able to speak to one another instead of two officials. We believe this referendum is necessary as the voices of people decrying U.S.-backed human rights abuses are too often silenced, belittled, and repressed by every level of government. Referenda of this nature are an invaluable democratic way to measure Bloomington residents' perspectives on quite possibly the most significant issue of foreign policy today. With our nation's international influence and great collective resources, our government violates morality and international law. Through us, a crisis grows and far too many innocents suffer. We also believe that this referendum allows voters to further educate themselves as it brings to light such an important issue on the local level. Our government's actions are too often locked away from the public eye, where we have no voice or recourse. Finally, the presence of truly so many people signals to our policymakers what matters to us. Will we stand by as our government perpetuates and allows abhorrent abuses and mass death, or will we speak against it? This matter should be voted on and subject to a democratic process. We, the people, should decide how our resources and influence are used. Our movement is rooted in the utmost concern for universal rights and respect for human decency. I'd like to thank everyone in support of this referendum for pushing our society, and through us, our government, in the right direction.
Thank you. My name is Shariar Mufti. I'm here today to speak in support of the petition to place the advisory question on public policy on the November ballot for the Bloomington Township. We are all U.S. taxpayers. As an individual citizen, I must speak against the U.S. government's policy to provide military funding to a country that is at war in a highly populated civilian area. While this is just an advisory question, and this body nor the Bloomington Township citizens can influence U.S. government policy through this direct action, I firmly believe that local governments are the bedrock of this nation. I would like all U.S. citizens and registered voters in Bloomington Township to have an opportunity to say yes or no to this advisory question. In the name of God, for the love of peace, and in the memory of the thousands of innocent adult, women, and children dead on both sides, slaughtered primarily by U.S.-provided military weapons, in violation of many of our own laws of the United States of America, I strongly urge all those in attendance to allow this advisory question on the ballot. If you vote to put this question on the ballot, you will be allowing the opportunity for the citizens of Bloomington Township to ask a question. You may choose to answer however you wish at the election, but let us ask the question. That's the least you can do as an individual citizen. Give the voice to the thousands of innocent lives lost directly due to U.S. taxpayer dollars. If you choose not to put the question on the ballot, ask yourself deeply why. We cannot solve all the ills of this world, but here is a simple, low-cost, direct, and clear opportunity in front of you. Vote in favor of the petition. Thank you.
Thank you. I recognize someone in opposition.
Hello, everyone. I just introduced 109, that's all good, right? No name? Awesome, thank you. So, I just want to speak in support of this resolution. Not to repeat, but just to reiterate that this is a resolution for the November ballot. The arguments made now can be made from today until November, whether for or against. This is about getting a feel of the Bloomington area. And as everyone here may notice, we are of at least 109 people, of a town, of a city, of nearly 80,000, I think more than 80,000. To allow the question to die here is an affront to our democracy, the values that we suppose we believe in, and discourages public input in a country where our public engagement is already historically low for peer nations. Coming general election, nearly 60, maybe 70% of people vote on a good year. On a midterm year, that drops to nearly 50, 40. For locals, that drops to 10. To not allow this is a disservice to all of them, where the most amount of U.S. citizens vote and should be presented with this question. Whatever one may think about what is happening is irregardless. The question must be presented and it must be asked. We already know that nearly 60% of voters disagree with the violence that is happening to one extent or the other. And so we should put this question to ensure they are more than just polling numbers, which are often selected, fabricated, picked, so on, however, choose the word you may like, and to a direct vote. And lastly, I just want to address some claims just made previously that all information does not come straight from Bibi's mouth, that we must look broader than that. We must take in all information that's presented to us. And it has been shown that this is an ethnic cleansing, that this is violence perpetrated against civilians that is not at a 1-to-1 ratio, and that we must stand up as citizens, as good U.S. people, Americans, however you want to identify as, and say enough is enough. Violence is not great. We are the number one perpetrators of violence, and we should consider turning around and pushing for peace. Thank you.
Okay, I'll recognize someone in opposition to the resolution. Yes, sir. Come on. An oppositor in favor of the resolution.
Have the decency to...
I'm sorry.
31. Good evening. I want to thank everybody for attending today. I know it was short notice, but this is our democracy, and this is how democracy works. I want to address some of the issues that have been put forward about the funding of the genocide machine that is happening in Gaza right now. Those tax dollars could be better served here in America. Those tax dollars could be better served for our roads, for our school, for our health care. Our government is currently being run by a foreign lobby entity that has purchased every single one of our elected officials in Washington. And we need to send a message to Washington that that is not American. That is not the way we operate. We want to look out for our citizens first, make sure that our children are being taken care of. For those that are saying that we're anti-Semitic and that anti-Zionist equals anti-Semitism, that is false. Listen to your children from the mouth of babes. They are being arrested. They are being beaten up by the state because they recognize that Israel is an apartheid state. It is recognized by the UN. The only reason that it's maybe not global is because Israel and the United States has a veto vote. We are funding the military-industrial complex on the backs of women and children, and that must stop. Please give us the opportunity for this community to voice their opinion on whether or not they want to continue murdering innocent children and women, or if we want to stop that. So please allow this question to be allowed on the ballot. Thank you.
Stop sending money to Ukraine then.
In favor of the resolution? Anyone else in favor? Yes, sir. Your number, please.
39. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. I'm not going to repeat a lot of things that's already been said. I'm just going to tell you guys that I'm here in support of the resolution, more from a symbolic gesture than anything. At the end of the day, nothing is going to change. We all know the U.S. government is bought and ran by Israel. That is no more evident than this past Friday when the UN nation had a vote on whether to recognize Palestine as being eligible to be a member of the UN. The vast majority of the civilized world voted in favor. 9 countries voted against the measure. One of those countries is the United States. Ask yourself why. At the end of the day, nothing is going to change. We know we're going to continue bombing these people. None of us in this room is going to solve what's happening in the Middle East. The question you should ask yourself as you go to sleep tonight is whether we should continue bombing these people, creating a generation of orphans that's going to grow up and have hate in their heart and continue to perpetuate this cycle of hate. Or are we going to say no more? We are not doing this anymore. Thank you.
I'll now recognize anyone in opposition to the resolution. Sir, your number, please.
66.
My name is Matt Tosco. I'm a member of the local Bloomington Normal Club of the Communist Party USA. Before I get right into what I wanted to say this evening, I'd first like to say that my grandfather was in World War II. I have grown up, like many of us, hearing the horror stories about the Holocaust, seeing the images, just how horrible that was. And when we say never again, we mean never again for everyone. We mean never again by anyone. But never again, is, whichever way you see it, is not what we're here to discuss or vote on tonight. What we're here to discuss or vote on is a matter of democracy. Whether or not the people of Bloomington should be able to have this question on the ballot and make up their own minds. It seems to me that if you're against that, the only reason to be against that, other than some abstract whatever, would be if you're afraid your side's going to lose. And that just amounts to pure cowardice, if you really want to look at it that way. This is a hot button issue that whether or not it gets on the ballot is going to be decided by people who are already registered voters, by people who I'm assuming show up to vote. But this is the kind of issue that no matter which side you're on, can be the kind of thing that brings more people to the polls, that gets more non-voters interested in taking part in the democratic process, whether you're for or against this particular language. And I think that to not have this on the ballot, to have this on the ballot would be a victory for democracy itself in Bloomington. And I think people need to understand why we're here, what it is we're voting on. We're not hashing out, all the violence and the horribleness in the Middle East. No, we're talking about allowing a question on the ballot. Very much like a lot of us came together as unlikely allies to try and get a question on the ballot in Normal about breaking the town council up into individual wards. The city pulled and grasped at every straw to keep that question from the voters. And I'd hate to see that happen tonight. In a true democracy, these questions should be asked, and to stand in the way of that is ultimately cowardice. Thank you.
I'll recognize.
Just to be clear, the overwhelming majority of Zionists are not Jewish, so if you hear the word Zionist and you think Jew, that's incredibly anti-Semitic. It's very disgusting. But we are told that when someone tells us something about themselves, we should believe them. So what do statements by top Israeli officials say about how Israel self-identifies? Former Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin, I don't think it's possible to contain over the long term, if we don't want to get to apartheid, 1.5 million more Arabs inside a Jewish state. Attorney General of Israel, Michael Ben Yair, we established an apartheid regime in the occupied territories immediately following their capture. That oppressive regime exists to this day. Former Israeli Environmental Minister Sarid, what acts like apartheid, is run like apartheid, and harasses like apartheid is not a duck, it's apartheid. Former Prime Minister Ehud Barak, if this bloc of millions of Palestinians cannot vote, that will be an apartheid state. Former Prime Minister Ehud Olmert, if the day comes when the two-state solution collapses and we face a South African-style struggle for equal voting rights, then as soon as that happens, the state of Israel is finished. Former Israeli ambassador to South Africa, Alon Leal, in the situation that exists today, until a Palestinian state is created, we are actually one state. This joint state is an apartheid state. Amos Shakan, publisher of the Israeli newspaper Haaretz, the product of Zionism, the state of Israel, is not a Jewish and democratic state, but instead has become an apartheid state, plain and simple. Yehudit Kar, former Israeli Deputy Attorney General, the time has come to call a spade a spade. An apartheid regime is the name given in internal law by the international community to a regime of the type that Israel is maintaining in the occupied states. Amos Goldberg, leading professor of the Holocaust at Hebrew University in Jerusalem. Accusing Israel of apartheid is not anti-Semitic, it describes reality. The whole facts and logic thing. In 2018, Israel passed a nation-state law saying the right to exercise national self-determination in the state of Israel is unique to the Jewish people. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said in 2019, Israel is not a nation of all its citizens. According to the nation-state law we passed, Israel is the nation-state law of the Jewish people and not anybody else. In our epistemological age of affirming the lived experience of individuals, of listening and supporting how people self-identify, it follows that we must listen and affirm Israel's truth, i.e. how Israel self-identifies. Israel, by its own leaders' words, self-identifies as an apartheid state.
Someone in favor of the resolution? Yeah.
Go ahead, you.
Number, please.
22. I'm assuming it's this one. Yeah. Hi, everybody. My name is Jenna Al-Shoba. 18 years old, and this is my first year that I can actually be doing this kind of thing and voting. I wanted to come up here tonight and tell you guys that as a Palestinian myself, we need to be aware that, like what was said earlier, your tax dollars, instead of funding things like affordable housing and clean water and healthcare, renewable energy, they're funding displacement. As we speak, we're living through a live genocide, and I would appreciate it if nobody would speak over me during this time. Everybody that's in here that I'm associated with and that I know is kind of here because about 4 years ago I started protesting in town. And I run Free Palestine Bono, and I am the organizer of that. It's honestly really hard for me to come up here and speak in front of you all, but I know that I had to do that because otherwise, when am I going to get the chance to speak in front of you guys again? To see my people being killed every single day at a drastic rate is horrifying. And if you stand for human rights in general, you cannot stand for them unless you also stand for the Palestinian rights and the Palestinian people. I've lived here my entire life. I am truly, I'm American, but I do live in guilt. I come from a strong force of people who are challenged every single day with life or death. And while I'm grateful for my life, I can't help but think about the things that the Palestinians my age face every single day. Whether it's finding their dead family members or realizing that their bloodlines have been wiped from existence. You cannot claim to be a democratic government without giving us the chance to have this on the ballot to vote on. You need to give your people a chance to take their stance. Thank you.
All right, and so we had 28 yes votes and 88 no votes.
The next item on the agenda is item number 5. Clerk will call in a moment. Before that, however, I want to thank all of you for coming out here tonight, and I want to commend all of you for the orderly discussion that you conducted. Thank you very much.